Trevor Wittman is a 3-time MMA Coach of the Year and has been part of the sport for over 15 years. Just 3 short years ago, his fighters were all champions and top contenders. But since then, there has been a noticeable decline. In this video, I'm going to tell you the reasons for the decline, how to fix it, and how it impacts the future of MMA coaching. But first, we have to start at the beginning. Trevor started out like many coaches, an active competitor. After various injuries, he decided to hang it up and open his own gym. In 1998, Trevor Wittman founded T's KO Fight Club. Clever wordplay. Wittman would eventually transition from owner to coach. From 2009 to 2016, some of America's best fighters went through his MMA gym due to its affiliation with Jackson Wink MMA. During this period of time, Trevor Wittman coached the likes of Stipe Miocic, John Jones, GSP, Rashad Evans, and Donald Cerrone. But eventually, Wittman wanted to slow down and focus on a few especially talented fighters that he saw a lot of potential in. Rose Namajunas and Justin Gaethje. And later, Kamaru Usman. Trevor Wittman built a reputation off of taking rough-around-the-edges fighters with a lot of heart and other intangibles and giving them solid technical abilities, mainly regarding boxing for MMA. Justin Gaethje was a high-level collegiate wrestler who transitioned to MMA and just wanted to brawl.
So he comes in, he's like, I'm here to fight. And I was like, cool. And I'm like, all right, well, we're sparring today. And he's like, cool, yeah, I want to fight. And I'm like, all right, cool, let's go back there. And I said, well, we're sparring today. Let's get back here. And I was like, you have any gear? And he's like, cool, what gear I need? And I'm just like, oh, my God.
His partnership with Trevor Wittman toned that down a bit and turned him into an interim lightweight champion. Lots of people don't know this, but Rose Namajunas started out in Taekwondo and kickboxing. Her creative kicking was originally her main asset. Being with Trevor improved her boxing, and then she knocked out Ioana Jędrzejczyk for the belt. Kamaru Usman was a boring wrestler. He started training with Wittman, and his striking got to a level where he could knock out the likes of Gilbert Burns and Jorge Masvidal, as well as using the threat of his striking to work his grappling. This made him way more versatile, entertaining, and one of the best fighters of his generation. The specific wrinkle that he added to all of these fighters' games is boxing. The wild kicks of Namajunas and the light kicks of Gaethje and the wrestling of Kamaru Usman were all there before they met Trevor. He will always be a boxing-first kind of guy. So what happens when he's paired up with someone who already has phenomenal striking? Cory Sandhagen's Abu Dhabi and Apex escapades are some of the fights that got me into the sport. Highlight reel finishes and competitive striking battles, classy in victory and defeat. So when I originally saw the news of Cory training at Onyx with Trevor Wittman, I went, oh, this was the missing link. He needed a coach with championship experience. He was really close with his other coaches at Elevation, but the best fighters at that gym were Neil Magny and Curtis Blades, 2 men who have been labeled gatekeepers for the last 5 years of their careers. So Cory leaves there to train at Altitude and Forge, so he can be closer to Trevor Wittman. And slowly but surely, you see his game begin to change, specifically after the TJ Dillashaw loss, where he technically inflicted more damage with cuts and shredding Dillashaw's knee, but still lost because that's not exactly how the scoring criteria works. So it feels like Cory got really into his own head and overcompensated, focusing too much on defense and technically winning fights according to the criteria instead of being violent, creative, and inflicting damage. Partnering with Wittman, whose defensive structure and fundamentals can sometimes backfire, like how we've seen Rose Namajunas stagnate and Kamaru Usman lose to Leon Edwards twice. In the first fight, Usman used his physicality. In the second and third fight, he focused more on clean boxing and trying to out-technique Leon Edwards. In my opinion, this wasn't the best game plan because Leon is one of the most technically sound fighters we've ever seen. The lack of physicality and controlling wrestling allowed Leon to stay in the fight. Cory's main weapons were his creativity, and even if the techniques weren't perfectly executed, they got the job done. So then we get the trio of performances against Song Yadong, Chito Vera, and Rob Font. Uncharacteristically risk-averse and unimpressive. Lots of tapping at range and wet blanketing. I understand that he tore his tricep early in the Font fight, but it was probably going to be a similar striking performance to the Song Yadong fight anyways. Instead, we got boring grappling. Which brings me to the main crux of the video. Cory's performance against Umar Nurmagomedov. I want to preface this by saying that Umar deserves a lot of credit for having an amazing performance. A lot of people are saying that it was boring. It wasn't. But Cory didn't bring the energy that he had in 2020 and 2021, that killer instinct. I believe that Cory won the first round, and maybe could have won the second, but it's a stretch. His game plan seemed to be ass backwards. First round was full of activity, and he proved that he could stuff the shots and that the wrestling positions weren't too big of an issue. So instead of using this momentum to take more risks because you already know you can hang on the ground, he went backwards and fought in an even more defensive way. In the fifth and final round, there's a moment that I think really encapsulates the fight. At around 2 minutes left, Cory and Umar are scrambling on the ground, and Cory is close to a Anderson Silva on Chael Sonnen Hail Mary triangle. And Umar shifts, and it's right there, and Sandhagen doesn't go for it. While looking for a position over submission, he kind of ends up just watching the action. You're down a minimum of 3-1, and you're losing the round. There's no time for this. He got too focused on defense and solving the Nurmagomedov puzzle that he forgot what brought him to the dance. I think that the defensive wrestling was stellar, and that it could be a game plan that we see used against Makhachev or other Dagestani wrestlers. It's okay to give up your back as long as you're responsible. Granby roll out, elevate your hips, and twist. Easier said than done, but it was effective here. We always knew Cory was kind of a nerd, reading The Art of War, dressing like an English teacher. He's a psych major, for God's sake. But pairing him up with Trevor is a major misstep. You need a coach who compliments you, and Trevor Wittman is just too smart. The fighter-coach dynamic is often overlooked. Like, look at Sean Strickland and Eric Nixick. Sean brings his otherwise boring and jab-heavy style, and then Nixick hypes him up and gives him a bit of an edge in the cage.
I don't want to lose some fucking boring-ass decision here. Hey, we didn't come all this way to lose a fucking point fest. Get on this motherfucker and let's go. Sean, everything right now, we're fighting for that little kid inside of us, Sean. Well, look at me. Save nothing for the swim home, baby. Yes, save nothing for the swim home.
Cory needs a coach like that can harness the violence that brought him success a couple of years ago. Not that he doesn't need a coach to improve his skills, but he is already at such a high level where he might just need maintenance in that regard. I've been thinking about this idea, right, that MMA is about balancing technique and violence, and right now Team Sandhagen is too technique-focused. Again, not a horrible performance, just a misstep. Umar isn't a bum either, so major props to him. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I greatly appreciate a like, comment, and subscribe for more MMA content, and have a good time.